Today we're going to learn how to balance a painting. There's usually something on the left, something on the right. And we can see here the same theme. In one painting, it's two separate sides that balance the whole painting. And here too, we see two different sides that balance the whole thing. And we can see it here too. This is still by Botticelli. That basically the painting is split in half, like he really intended to do that. And here we even see like trees are perfectly symmetrical on one side and on the other side. So it's by design that sometimes painters do this. So we have the same theme here. Now let's take a look at Rembrandt, who in 1653 painted these wonderful watercolors. And as you can see, most of them have empty spaces there. But it's not the empty space that is filling this painting. It's the little detail. It's this windmill, which is very small compared to the rest of the painting. But that's the part that's filling the entire painting. Or this part here, So, like in this case, we have the same situation that Rembrandt had, which is we have on the horizon a small detailed landscape. There is a church on the left with two little trees, and then on the right side, it looks like there's like a farmhouse or something. It's actually a restaurant in real life, but it used to be a farm. And a bunch of trees, and they are separated in the middle, like Botticelli did, by nothing. There is a pine tree in the middle. It's actually a maritime tree, but we see both elements from Botticelli and from Rembrandt that you can recognize in this painting. And that's what makes composition really nice, because that's how our eye works. That's how painting works. And if you have noticed this in real life too, there's even some movies that I'm talking about like older movies, that if you look at the photography of the movies, sometimes they split the screen without splitting it. It's just one image, but they split the screen, and you can see one character on one side doing something, the other character on the other side doing something else. It's very well done in one of Hitchcock's movie. It's called The Back Window, if I'm not mistaken, and it's basically a movie about what do you see from a window. And it's very interesting because many times you see one thing happening on one side of the screen and another thing happening on the other side, and the viewer is kind of tricked into going back and forth the sides and trying to keep up with everything that's happening there. So it's quite interesting. Sorry about the terrible video. I took it from my monitor, but see the two different scenes. Well, the whole movie is like that. There's a guy trying to get into an apartment. So we have the same situation here, and I am just applying I'm basically doing this as a sunset scene, and I'm applying some coloring to the mountains in the background. This is the mountain in the background, which is going to be orange or brownish, and it's going to reflect the light from the rest of the landscape, which is in sunset. And I'm trying to like paint this as freely as possible. There's like definitely some areas that need to be precise, like the mountain cannot blend into the sky. So I'm trying to do that and make sure that there's a definition in between the mountain and the sky. And the sky has to be lighter because that's where all the light is, and the mountain just reflects the light back to the sky basically. Here I'm applying some green to the field that's underneath. I have quite a big field to work with, but there is nothing in the field. So I'm just making it look like the field has been plowed, and which is also true because that little church and the farm are in an area where they actually plow the fields. It's called the Val d'Orcia, which is it's a special area in Tuscany where it's near Pienza, and it's south of Siena, about like 40 minutes from Siena. And it's the classic, the postcards from Tuscany, those pictures all come from that area. It's not around Florence like people might think. Um, the landscape around Florence is quite there's quite a few mountains. These kind of landscapes are a little bit further south in Tuscany. So I'm applying this vivid green on top of the field, and as you can see, I'm leaving it kind of unfinished because that's exactly the the feel I want. I don't want it finished because then it's gonna lose its spontaneity. It's not gonna be spontaneous, and it's gonna look a little dull. So I applied some darker shades in the background to mimic the trees in the background. And what I'm doing here, I'm using my brush, and I'm trying to do grass here. Although I'm not super happy with it, but it's fine. It will do. The effect is fine. I kind of like the how the grass looks like. But it's just to like show that there is a depth of field, so that there is a part of this painting that's far away, and then we are actually experiencing the field right close to us. I'm doing some more detail here with the fan brush, but basically that's what I want to achieve by putting that grass there. And I'm also going to make it darker so it looks like it's really close to us, because everything that's close to you when you're painting, it's going to have really darker values as opposed to what's farther away. So farther away, all the values of the colors are going to be softened. So in other words, like let's say a blue, if a blue like ultramarine is close to you, it's ultramarine blue. So it's like shining the blue. But as the blue goes farther away from you, because the atmosphere is in between you and the object, the blue is going to look more pale. So it's not going to be that bright, which is what we call the value. So the value is not going to be that high. It's going to be a little bit more pale as as the object goes farther away into the background. As you can see, I'm applying here some more darker colors, in this case the brown. Kind of wanted to create like a, I don't know, like a meadow here that you can see, that you can perceive that it's close to you. And I think I partially succeeded. Anyways, it looks okay. So I'm adding some details here for the church. I'm starting to paint the church actually, which has a little um, bell tower. It's a teeny tiny bell tower, but it's there, and it has two bells. I've never heard it ring, but they probably still work. And it's a very teeny tiny, it's a teeny tiny church. I believe that it's a neo Gothic church. Don't quote me on this, but I believe that the facade of this church is actually not Romantic, which is typically these field churches in Tuscany. They are Romantic, which is it's an architectural style from the, let's call it medieval times. because there's a lot of Romantic architecture. That's when the Christian religion really was flourishing in the whole Italy, and there was a lot of churches being built back then, and they were called Romantic. And mostly their facades and their the whole church is built with like brown stone or bricks, but mostly brown stone, which could be also a very particular stone from Tuscany. It's called tufo, and it's a tufo is very hard. It's a very hard stone, but it's brittle, so you can easily shape it into anything you want. But it doesn't break very easily. So, I mean, it can. I think the technical term is that it resists well to compression, but it's brittle, so it can be made into any form you want. I'm adding some details on the farm here, which is it's a beautiful farm, but it's a restaurant right now, and I don't really understand why they build a restaurant so close to such an iconic place in Tuscany. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there isn't a restaurant. It just looks like a restaurant. But yeah, I'm just applying some more details here. And here I already painted the two trees on the left, which are darker, and I'm gonna paint the rest of the trees pretty much the same shade, the same color, because it doesn't change. And even these maritime pines, they're actually very dark pines, but on the top they're always illuminated by the sun, because they look like mushrooms, honestly. And the top side is illuminated by the sun, and many times it's bright green like the grass below. But in this case, because the light is so diffuse, it's actually the same color. I made it a little bit more brownish, but it's the same color. I'm also painting this big tree next to this farmhouse, and that tree also is going to have the same color. So it's all going to be the same. Let's move forward a little bit. And of course, the little cypress tree. The little cypress tree is like almost like a punctuation period in a sentence. So this whole landscape, it's like a full sentence, and then the little tree is like the period of the sentence. I don't know. This is I made it up. Anyways, I really like painting that little tree because it's separated from the others. And like we saw before, lots of famous paintings, they there is a balance in between the the empty spaces in between objects. And there are many reasons for that, but mostly because it's perception, and our eye needs to perceive emptiness, and it needs to perceive full. So if you paint a lot of things together, it's also a good measure to have something that's isolated and that's alone, that's standing by itself. And here I'm just finishing the whole painting. I'm putting some more shadows here. I also painted another little cypress tree there, which I really like. The painting is basically finished. You can find it in my Etsy store, of course. Thank you so much for sticking up with me, and I'll see you in the next painting.